Hey, how's it going? Today is 20th of October, Sunday, and it's something that we do every Sunday. We're gonna be taking a look at finances, just because it should be important for everyone focusing on this kind of areas, right? But before we do that, I have something planned for today. It might be interesting to approach this kind of subjects from different angle, perhaps, since that's not necessarily popular narrative. But anyway, first let's take a look at some of the government press releases and something that UK's government is doing, and from there we're gonna jump in today's video, right? There's gonna be three press releases. There most likely won't be a lot of information within those government press releases, just because all information might be very sensitive. But anyway, that will be the first one. So that was updated today. Sunday, it's good that everyone, not everyone, but some people are working on Sundays. But anyway, Global Combat Air Program update. Defense Secretary, let's give names, attended the G7 Defense Minister Summit in Naples, so that would be potentially Italy, where he discussed program on global combat air programs, right? Something that we were taking a look at previously, perhaps hiring and all professionals working in this area, right? Let's progress. Let's take a look at next article. After the Transport Secretary announces urgent actions to get grip on spiraling HST cost. So that will be infrastructure project and how much it can cost, which is it's not good. It's tax money and it's been spent and potentially, according to this article, things do cost a little bit more than expected, right? Anyway, let's progress. New air defense lasers engage multiple missiles at once. Okay, okay. It might be okay, it might be important, all those kind of things. I don't think that as of now, at least it wasn't released, that they this program is up to speed. But anyway, it might be very classified program. I don't think we can take anything with lasers. I don't think that's possible. But anyway, so I'm not looking to read it. Let's progress and then let's jump into this video. In today's video, we're gonna be taking a look at, and we will begin by trying to understand why there is a rush of African satellite launches. So, I haven't read this article, right? I have read the beginning of it, so that would be headlines only. I'll try to answer this question in my own words, and from there, we're gonna come back at the end of this video and we're gonna read this article together and let's see how well this article will try to capture and how well I will try to capture why there's a rush. It could be kind of fun, I guess. We're gonna begin by taking a look at taxes. So that would be finances. Since it's Sunday, we're gonna be taking a look at and we'll try to answer why there's such a rush to launch a lot of satellites, right? I think it will come back to taxes. And first tax in England is generally considered to be the geld. So that in just a second we're gonna be taking a look at Danageld. But just before we do that, let's try to understand why taxes are important and why government's collecting taxes, right? That would be defense and military expenditure, maintaining royal authority, building infrastructure, developing a stable economy, supporting for the church and the religious institutions. Okay, okay. I don't know. This is what information was given to me. But anyway, let's come back. I'll try to, at least I was trying to trace the history and how taxes was first introduced and all this kind of things, right? So potentially it might be back to uh, 1086. So this is how far back we can come back. And let's take a look at Wikipedia, what we can understand about Danegeld. Danegeld is Danish tax, literally Dane yield or tribute, was a tax raised to pay tribute to protection money to the Viking riders to save land from being ravaged. It was collected the Guild of Gaffold in 11th century sources. It was characterized of royal policy in both England and France during the 9th through 11th centuries, collecting both as a tribute to buy off the attackers and a stipendiary to pay for defense forces. The term Danageld did not appear until the late 11th century in Anglo-Saxon England. Tribute payments for Danish was known as a Gadolf, and the levy raised to support the standing army for defense of realm was known as Haragt army tax, right? Most likely to roll defense, right? So most likely then we're taking a look at taxes. We're looking for why so many satellites been launched into space. Most likely everything will come back to taxes and how government's going to be looking to collect more taxes, right? We're going to take one government in Africa as an example, and without going too much in detail, I was doing a little bit of research and trying to understand everything what's happening. And there's a lot of things happening, not necessarily that's something that we cover within this article. That we will take an example of how Nigeria is collecting taxes as of now, as well as how much they're collecting and how they're collecting, right? Nigeria, why is struggling to meet its tax targets. So this is different sources, not necessarily local government covering it, but that would be UK covering how Nigeria is processing its tax collection, right? We're only interested in taking a look at some of these numbers, right? Getting more people to pay tax in 2018, 19 million Nigerians paid into federal state coffers, according to government's data, which is more or less accurate. Some of the data that I was taking a look at would be 86% of all transactions. Out of 86%, taxes weren't collected. Out of 86. But it's not only Nigeria, but there's might be a lot of issues, and government is taking a look at how to collect more taxes, right? Anyway, the World Bank reported that Europe put the country's economic activity population at 85 million. So even with the rising numbers of taxpayers in recent years, yet it's still less than 30% paying taxes, right? So again, we're coming back to why there's a rush of sending a lot of satellites into space, right? One of the commodities from which many governments, including one operating in Nigeria, can collect taxes, that would be oil refinery. It's something that Nigeria has, but there might be a lot of issues there. We weren't gonna go down this road and try to understand everything what's happening with that particular refinery. But if that refinery would go online in full, there's gonna be a lot of effects happening, including for local government, how local government would be able to collect taxes of people purchasing oil, starting with that and progressing in other areas, as well as effect of that refinery going online would be that Scotland only oil refinery confirmed to close next year. So that will be which of the oil refineries most likely would be best at most up to date, has newest technology, and how much it would cost to process and refine oil. Sometimes to refine the barrel can cost $3 in places like perhaps Saudi Arabia, but depending on the oil, where other places like Canada and different type of oil, it could cost way more, right? Well, anyway, just one example of commodities and how government can collect taxes of every individual when purchasing and or exchanging of goods and all those kind of things, right? And potentially, when it comes to collecting taxes, that would mean that government would need to keep a track of all transactions happening, as well as with each transaction, there would be communications with satellites and how government would. We can take a look at Nigeria, but potentially there might be more governments who might be interested in collecting taxes. And something that have recently been announced, I haven't read by the way, that would be BRICS Pay. I would be taking a look at QR, but most likely there would be a credit card, so those kind of things as well. That would be BRICS Pay QR to provide a standardized connection between national payment methods and with commercial payment systems in BRICS countries or BRICS Plus countries. This system ensures consistent and more reliable card and account-based payments throughout the retail. QR codes with increased use of QR codes for touchless payments allows chance to offer customers a variety of payments options using a single QR code, all those kind of things, right? I'm not promoted by any of those governments or companies, right? I'm more interested to understand what was covered by UK's government when it comes to why there's a rush of satellites, right? Let's progress and let's close this video by taking a look at the article. I haven't read that article yet. Okay, let's come back to the article and where we have started. That would be why there's a rush of African satellite launches, right? My understanding that would be communication and the way how money would be used and moved, as well as governments would be able to collect taxes of that money, since there might be a lot of issues how governments collecting taxes. So governments might be interested in moving into digital space, communication, and collecting taxes of every transaction, as well as they might be looking to charge for commodities, including petrol, gas, all those kind of things, right? Anyway, let's jump into this article. One by one, the satellites, each of them encourage the hodgepodge of solar panels and all gizmos detailed from the mothership. Okay. It might be, anyway. They had blast off there just hours earlier on 16th of August. 116 satellites on board with launch vehicles were mostly designed and all built by Western nations and no businesses. But one of them was different. Okay. Well, I think that India can do cheaper and better compared to some of the satellites that was launched by India, as well as quality of pictures that India was managed to do, and price sometimes can be 6 times cheaper. But anyway, it was first such a spacecraft ever developed by African country of Senegal. The small CubeSat called GadySat A1. It will be provided observation and telecommunication services. Senegal's president called a big step towards technological sovereignty. The cost of launching a satellite has fallen significantly in the recent years, says let's keep names, founder and managing director of Space Hubs Africa, a space consultancy. The reducing cost and space has opened it make up anyway. So they're not looking to perhaps covering the cost, but anyway. Since I think it's as it has been mentioned already that the Western nations and they launching those satellites, right? Today, the total of 17 African countries has put more than 60 satellites into orbit, and along with Senegal, both Djibouti and Zimbabwe have also watched their first satellites become operational during the past 12 months. Dozens more African satellites are expected to go into orbit in the coming years, and yet the continent currently has no space launch facilities in its own. We were taking a look at Kenya and Italian government potentially having their operations in Kenya. So I don't know if this statement is accurate. It's something that was published a couple of days ago and we have read it. Plus, powerful countries elsewhere in the world are arguably using nascent African space programs as means of building relationships and asserting their geopolitical dominance more broadly. Okay. Can more African nations chart their own way into orbit and beyond? I don't think that will be important, perhaps collaborations or joint ventures, but most likely this article is going off the subject, right? Even if perhaps some of this program has been in the process for many years, I think there are a lot of governments who can do at the cost, very low cost, as well as solving a problem of something that we were taking a look at in the beginning of this video, right? That's important information, and this article is going off the subject into tall grass, so to say, off the subject. Briefly, right, since the people who published this article, they might have their own interest in mind, I can briefly share the rest of the information, but most likely they won't be taking a look at. Most likely we're taking a look at research and development into this technology. It's the only thing what this article is focusing on, other than what kind of problems and So article, the way how articles have started, right? Let's start with this one. The way how articles started is why there is a rush of African satellite launches. Why there is a rush, right? So we haven't answered this question. I was trying to answer it, but I don't think this article is answering this question, right? European, China, and US has all involved themselves in numerous African space programs. India is missing, which should be important to mention. This at the cost, right? And China is not necessarily Western, and I think it's East. Since again, this is no way not to forget. This has helped boost African technology into orbit for sure, but it has also served as a critical diplomatic tool. Says there's names there, and they might go political, but anyway. Observers have suggested that African space programs are not just about getting African nations into space, they also extend areas where some of the world's most powerful countries compete with one another. Okay, so what that has to do with anything? Competition. They're focusing on satellites and launching of satellites. They're not focusing on what kind of problems the satellite's going to be looking to solve, which is would be more important of those governments having tax revenue and supporting some of those initiatives. So this, I believe, this article is completely missed the point. Well, anyway, this wouldn't be a first time. Let's close on that. Thanks for watching. See you next one.